Hello everybody and welcome back. I am thrilled today to be discussing with you telepathy because I have noticed that I'm having to explain a lot about how we communicate to our guides and angels and past loved ones. And so I really wanted to break down how that works and how telepathy is a way that they communicate and how we are able to communicate. And so if any of this sounds interesting to you, please like and subscribe. And we're about to dive on in. Here we go. For those of you that have just stumbled across this video, hello and welcome. My name is Ashley Dawn. I am all sorts of things. I am a medium, I am a Reiki master, I am an herbalist, and many, many other things, but I have felt compelled over the last several years to just kind of have a really casual YouTube channel where I can share some information that might be helpful to you or appealing to you, and help you along your journey of awakening or healing or whatever it is. So welcome to those of you that are new, and welcome to those of you that have been here from the beginning. Kudos to you. My love and heart and peace and everything goes out to you too. I absolutely adore you all and love your support. So what we're going to be discussing today is telepathy. And it's a really important topic, I think, because this is really how you communicate with your guides, angels, past loved ones, higher self, and how they communicate with you. So let's get to chatting about that. So first of all, how we typically communicate as human beings is obviously through speech. And that is a bunch of words that we come up with. And those words have kind of like a hollow meaning. Like, for example, when you send an email or a text, it's not until we put emphasis on certain words, or we pause, or we have tones and pitches and facial expressions along with body language that starts to pull in more things to help us to understand the context of that sentence, right? So there's a lot of cues the human being requires to have a really healthy, good flow of communication. So it's funny that we think of speech as being something that's actually really simple, but it's actually really, really complicated. So sound has to come out of our mouth. We have to create thoughts. We're trying to express or convey something, especially when it's an emotion. And so basically, one of the best examples I have is if there was a way for me to describe to you with facial expressions and hand gestures and body language and my tones and pitches and pauses, a movie trailer that is really exciting and I think you would like, I can sit here and describe it all day. But what if I could mentally zap over to you a mental picture, like a movie trailer in your mind within a second, of all the emotions and the roller coasters and the cliffhangers and all the things that were in this movie clip, right? You would get it all downloaded within a matter of seconds, and you would be like, whoa, that sounds like a freaking amazing movie. I can't wait to see that movie, right? That's kind of how telepathy works. All right, so not as maybe dramatic, but very similar. And this is essentially how we communicate on our three-dimensional, very basic way of communication. But this is kind of going to begin to go to the wayside. And so what I mean is, yes, we're still going to use verbal communication, but 4D, or the fourth dimensional vibration, which we are moving into and actually have moved into, we are going to start to communicate a little bit differently. For those of you that are already empaths and have struggled with being an empath your whole life, this is also a message for you. Most of us are very sensitive, especially light workers and starseeds and anybody that deals with anything healing journey stuff, either your own journey or you're helping other people. We are often empathic, meaning that you empathically feel what the other person is feeling or thinking and those kinds of things. So for us that already do that, that's a way that we've communicated and we've learned how to communicate our entire lives. And hopefully by now you've mastered how to set boundaries and divide between, and find a distinction, I guess I should say, between what your thoughts and feelings are and what the feelings and thoughts are of the people around you, so that it's not so confusing and overwhelming, right? So how the four-dimensional way of communication works is that we have risen our vibration up from 3D to 4D, and now things are starting to change. This higher vibration gives us the opportunity to start to use telepathy in a more real-time kind of way. Now, the easiest and best way that we can begin to do this is through meditation. Those of you that have been here on this channel before probably could have like put money on the fact that I was going to say that. But here's why, and I don't know if I've really said this before. So when we meditate, we quiet the mind, right? Because it is noisy. It is noisy in our environment and world. It's noisy in here oftentimes. But when we sit down to meditate, we are practicing on quieting the noise, right? So in our mind, we have what monks call monkey mind or the ego. I call her Karen because she's kind of a bee, you know what I mean? But she's the one in your brain that loop thinks, that overthinks, over worries, that, you know, tells you the worst case scenario and gets you all worked up over things that usually never happen. And so that part of the brain is very vital. It's necessary. It helps keep us alive, gives us a little fear in our little, you know, butterflies in our gut when we're too close to a cliff edge or something along those lines. So it's a very important part of us being human. But we can't allow that part of our brain to always have the wheel and steer where we go, because what happens is instead of moving forward, we just end up doing donuts in a parking lot and worrying and overthinking and not making any movement forward or progress. So we can't let Karen have the wheel all the time. So how do we do that? How do we get to a place where she doesn't? It's through meditation. Meditation allows us and provides us the opportunity to get Karen to sit down and shut up so that we can quiet her down, so that we can really engage more in our true selves and that consciousness, that light body self. This allows us to start to practice, and it is a practice because we all suck at it at first, right? So you have to practice quieting that part of your mind and finding that inner peace and stillness. It is here where we will communicate and find our guides, our angels, our past loved ones. It's this stillness. We have to bring down or bring out, push out or push over, I guess, that chattery, overactive, mind, Karen. And then we have to raise up that quiet, peaceful, higher self kind of part of us. That higher vibrational self, which is buried somewhere deep and usually like kind of in the background, and it's so noisy in here that we can't focus on it. When we bring that forward, right, the quiet, peaceful side of ourselves, then we can start to hear our higher selves, hear our guides, hear our angels, really connect on a whole different level to our higher selves and our higher vibrational side of us. So in a nutshell, meditation improves our ability to communicate through telepathy. So we're going to assume that you are or are going to or have been practicing quieting your mind through meditation. Sometimes when I quiet my mind or when I'm meditating, it is just simply to quiet my mind. I'm not actually there to do anything else other than say, I just need peace in here and I'm going to quiet my mind. Other times, I am meditating for my own healing, growth, stability, grounding. Other times I am meditating so that I can get messages so that I can deliver them to you guys. Or I am in a state of meditation, heightening that quiet-minded awareness so that I can connect with my client's energy and I can connect with them when I'm doing energy work, or I can connect with your loved ones who have passed on and I can communicate with them. Do you see how this is starting to become beneficial for maybe some of the things that you guys do or that you want to start doing in your own practice and in your own lives, right? So the number one thing you're going to have to do is start meditating. Now, when you start meditating, one of the other things that you should do is start asking for assistance. Your guides and angels cannot infringe upon your free will. You have to open that door. You have to ask for their assistance. And you can say, hey, I want to get better at quieting my mind. I want to get better at meditation. I want to get better at connecting to my higher self, my guides or angels. And I know to do that, I need to find these quiet spaces. I want to be able to communicate to you guys effortlessly in my mind using telepathy. You have to ask. So don't forget to ask. Number 2. You gotta practice. You gotta meditate fairly regularly. Now, I do a tiny mini meditation. I call it my morning check engine light. I do that in the morning every morning. I check all my chakras. I kind of get a feel for how things are going to be going today in my body. I'll recognize if I'm feeling anything funky or off, and really loving and honoring and giving encouragement or support to that part of me that might not feel 100%. but also giving myself the intention for the day, putting my mind and my heart in the place I really want it to be for that day. And so that's kind of my morning meditation. Later on, I will do meditations again, like I mentioned before, for myself, for my healing, for my growth, for my development, for adventures with my guides, taking me off planet to really cool places, or getting information for you guys. So practice, practice, practice. Now, I fortunately have a job and profession which puts me into this state of mind with every client every day. So I am doing this for hours on end a day. If I'm doing a mediumship session that's an hour long, then I have to be in that state of mind. Then I have energy work, and then so I'm doing this for hours a day. So that's not always the case for all of us. So just think about, it can be 5 minutes or it can be an hour that you sit down, but anything where your intention is to sit quietly with yourself and really just sit and meditate. That is going to be huge for you guys. I will challenge you guys to maybe do this for like 10 days straight. If you can do it for 10 days straight, and it doesn't have to be like an hour long every time, but if you at least make an effort to meditate every day for at least 10 days straight, you're going to be mind blown at the amount of groundedness and peace that you will have internally. And that is the right steps forward to doing some of the things that I'm talking about, especially communicating telepathically. So here's the thing that I want to explain to you too. I'm going to talk about number 3. And number 3 really is that your guides and angels always have this frequency on. Their radio is on and tuned into all channels, and they're scanning all channels. So when you are trying to sit down and meditate and connect to that frequency with them, they're ready to go and jump on it. The reason why we don't is because when we came to this planet in this life form as this human being, we came into a planet that was very 3-dimensional. And what that means is our slate was wiped clean. We do not remember who we are. We don't remember our mission. We are in a 3rd-dimensional, lower vibrational density, which means that we feel like we are here alone. We feel like sometimes we're a little lost. We feel a little bit separate than all the things around us. And the reason why our slate gets wiped clean is because we're here to learn, and we can't learn some of these things, make our mistakes and learn these things if we have all the wisdom from every past life we've ever had right behind us, and we're like, oh, I'm going to dodge this bullet because I've already done and experienced this. Well, sometimes we have to repeat things and do them again and make different, better choices so that we learn the right and wrong way to do things, right? And there is no wrong. We're just here to learn, right? So our slate gets wiped clean so that we have a really pure experience as far as learning and development, right? So there is reasons for that. However, now that we have shifted our planet and you guys, whether you want to do or not, sorry to break the news to you, but you are now in 4D. You are no longer in this 3-dimensional space. Now that we're in 4D, 4-dimensional energetic vibration, the veil is thinner. The veil that keeps us feeling separate from all things, the veil that keeps your loved ones and you on a different vibrational plane, those things are starting to be thinned out, which means that you have now more than ever a better opportunity to tune into yourself that allows you to tune into other light body beings and connect and communicate telepathically. So this is a really awesome time for humanity. So number 3 is when you sit down to communicate, their radio is already on. Their frequency is already on, right? We are just trying to find that quiet space within ourselves and fine-tuning our own radio to match certain frequencies, right? And I will tell you that your guides, your angels, your past loved ones, they're all different types of frequencies. And so you will have to, and usually usually we start out with angels because they are here to work with humanity. They don't care what shape, size, color, religion you are, period. They don't care. They're here to help humanity. And they are so full of unconditional love for you that oftentimes this is the first type of being that we will connect with. Right? Then we have all kinds of other guides and even eventually our higher self. And it takes time to adapt to those frequencies so that you can communicate with them. And remember too, the light body beings that you're connecting to are no longer in physical form. So they're not weighed down by this 3 and 4 dimensional type reality. They're higher dimensional. They're like, 6th, 7th, 8th, and all the way up to 12th dimensional. And so they don't necessarily have the physical type being that we do. And if they do, they have surpassed the ability to where they can be in a physical, which is what we're working on for you. If you hadn't figured this out yet, you are working on how to be a physical manifestation, a physical being with your carbon meat suit, right? And also a light body being able to communicate and connect to other light body beings in a totally different way, speaking a totally different language by using telepathy. So by meditating, you are lowering you're raising up that consciousness, lowering down the distractions, and putting yourself on a frequency or a level to where it's easier for you to communicate to them. And remember, your guides and angels don't have a veil. So they don't have something that's kind of blocking. They don't have something that they have to go through to communicate to you. So it's very effortless and easy for them to communicate to you. It's harder for us to communicate back. So then another way to kind of think about it, which is kind of crazy, but when we are in this physical form, we have a responsibility to live our lives and learn as much as we can in this human state and form. When we no longer need this physical form, so i.e. you die, right? What we consider death, you don't need this physical form. That is the complete and utter liberation of your consciousness, because now it is no longer being held back. The veil is dropped or lifted, I guess you could say. And now you are that light body being. You get floods of all the information back to you and all the past lives you ever lived, connecting to your higher self and your guides. And you see this interactive ecosystem that you are now a part of and that you kind of forgot that you were part of. So they've already been through all of that. So they don't have the veil that holds them back. All right, so I'm going to explain how I'm going to give you a description of how when I communicate with telepathy to my guides, angels, or your guys' loved ones, what it feels like, okay? And the reason why I'm going to explain it to you is it could be different for you guys, but I think it's so easy to dismiss some of these things, and I think people do it all the time. Your guides communicate to you telepathically all the freaking time. You just dismiss it, and you think it's a coincidence, or you think it's your own mind. So the reason why we think that, the first reason why, is because it is your own voice in your own freaking head. Could you imagine? You would feel terrified and completely scared if you heard this booming voice. Like if I heard a booming male voice say, Ashley Dawn, this is your guide. I would be like, oh, here we go. Like I've lost my mind and I'm done. This is it. This is it for me. This is how I die, No, that's not how it works. It's your voice in your head. Your guides are giving you energy and energetic communication, right? And so you are hearing your voice in your head. It just starts using terms and words that are unique and different. You don't talk to yourself in that way, right? So this is why it's so easy to dismiss, because you hear your voice in your head. You're like, oh man, I'm really worried about this situation and I don't know how it's going to go down. I wish I could have some guidance or something. And then a little part of your brain whispers and says, everything's going to be okay. I have a good feeling about this. Don't stress or worry. And you're like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I'm right. I'm not going to worry about it, right? And you just dismiss it. That was your guide and angel, right? Sometimes it's much more clear. You will start to hear yourself in your head, and you'll hear yourself say something like, dear one, we are here to support and love you. No matter how this outcome is resolved, know that you are safe and taken care of. And that's not how I talk to myself. That's probably not how you would talk to yourself, right? So eventually you start to recognize the differences in the words, the word choices, and maybe even some of the tones and pitches are a little bit off and different. So, for example, when I talk to somebody's loved one who had a heavy accent, I will hear my voice in my head, like your, Grandpa Joe that had a thick Italian accent. I will hear my voice in my head doing a terrible Italian accent and using broken English a little bit, which tells me that that person's loved one probably spoke another language and had, or maybe no English at all or spoke broken English, right? So it's really comical how they will communicate to you because they're trying to come through true to form. They're trying to express to you how the person sitting in front of me how I would have described them, right? So they have to come in clear that way at first. They have to come in clear that way first. Now, once I continue talking to, what did I say, Grandpa Joe, Uncle Joe, they will start to use more clear communication telepathically and drop the accent and all that. But I will tell the person, hey, I'm hearing an accent. Did you have an accent? And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, how'd you know, right? And it's like, no, it's because I hear my voice in my head. Now, here's the other thing too. Remember, it's not just like me describing a movie trailer to you. I literally zapped it over to you within seconds. So you will get downloads of information incredibly fast. And it's not just words. It's not just how I just gave you a few sentences as an example, like, dear one, you're supported and loved. It's not just like that. You will hear, dear one, and then you will feel this overwhelming, unconditional love, this calmness and peace that you have never felt before. And then you will hear the expression, not the words, but the expression of you are loved and supported. And there may not actually be words that you hear in your head. You may just all of a sudden hear, dear one, in your head, and then no other words. And you will just feel this overwhelming sense of love and support. And you'll be like, no, I'm okay. I feel good about this, right? So when they communicate telepathically, remember, they don't have to use words anymore. They're using visuals, and that's why and they're using emotion to convey and express what they're trying to communicate. Now, I skipped ahead for a second if you didn't catch that. The visual, right? So they will also use visual aids. They will use images in your mind. Again, this is easy for you to dismiss because it will feel like a memory. Sometimes this is deja vu, right? Because you will be like, that's so weird. I remember that. I remember this place, or I remember that. It's sometimes, yes, you're having deja vu, but other times your guides showed you images or examples prior, even subconsciously or in your dream, and that way when you are in a situation, it feels somehow comfortable or familiar, like you've been there before. When I'm working with guides, again, if I'm doing energy work, especially if I'm working with somebody and doing a mediumship session, your loved ones will show me a piece of jewelry, a property, a home that you grew up in, or something very specific. They will show me an image in my head, like a little flip book or like a little movie clip that lasts a matter of a second or two, but it's enough information for me to be like, oh, I see this little barn and there's a lot of land, and I see that there used to be maybe animals or cows on it, or I don't really know. Does that sound like something that, your loved one that I'm talking to, either where you grew up or where they grew up? And then they're like, yes, I do. So my point is that they will use imagery, some words, but tons of emotion and feeling. This is why those of you that are empathic will have an easier time doing this, right? Because you are already sensitive. You already know what these emotions and things like that stirring up within you, or feelings and emotions you're feeling from outside sources. You're already used to that, right? So in your mind, when you start to feel a certain emotion or feeling, you can be like, oh, they said, dear one, everything is going to be okay. And I felt all this love and support. Now, what if I'm talking to a loved one of yours and they're trying to tell me that they were really upset? Let's say they're really upset about how they passed. I'm going to feel like anger. I'm going to feel frustration. I'm going to feel these things. And they're going to explain to me how they felt like it wasn't fair and they left too early, right? And then even though they knew this was part of the plan, they're still mad that, dang it, I left too early, right? And they will make me feel the emotions of that. And I will hear, too young, too early, right? So my reason for explaining this to you guys is I guarantee some of you are like, holy crap, I may have already been doing this. And I'm telling you right now, you clicked on this video today for me to say that, and you to hear it and hit you in that heart chakra, for me to say, yeah, you have. You've already been communicating to your guides telepathically. You have shared and communicated information back and forth to your best friend, to your family members, to your loved ones who are still here and alive. You have shared thoughts already. Have you guys ever thought something and then randomly, let's say 30 minutes of silence, and then randomly you're like, hey, I think we should do ... And your friend is like, oh my God, I was totally thinking the same thing. And it could be random. It could be like, hey, tomorrow let's go to our favorite coffee shop and, read a book. Doesn't matter. And you guys were totally not talking about anything that had any relevance to that. And then all of a sudden, randomly, you're like, I want to do that. And the other person's like, me too, right? You guys were on the same frequency and your channels connected for a second and you actually heard each other's thoughts, right? So as crazy as that sounds, it's a thing, right? Okay. So here's the thing I really want to impress upon you. When you are connecting to your guides and angels in this way, you will feel colors. You will hear numbers. You will feel emotions and peaks and valleys of emotions for them to express things to you. Now, in their world and how they really communicate to us and to each other, they don't even move their mouths. If I can see them in my mind's eye, like if I can see your loved ones, if I can see an angel or one of my guides, let's say one of my favorite guides, Leo or Zaya, right? I don't see their mouths move. If I can see them in my mind's eye and they're communicating to me, they're just, staring at me with like a smile or a blank, expression. And I'm hearing what they're saying like that, right? So, but what I'm feeling is all these mixtures, and you'll get good at it. Remember, this is like you learning a new language, right? It's always there. It's always been there. You're just learning how to fine tune this skill. Just like everybody that has, fingers and arms can play the guitar. We all can do it. It's just like playing music is like learning a new language, and you have to practice at it. So for those of you that never heard about telepathy before or never understood it to this degree, I'm telling you that you are fully capable of doing it. You probably have already done it. And I am so excited to hear about how you guys are going to start meditating more and really trying to connect to your guides and angels on a deeper level. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would I make this video right now? Maybe you weren't, I don't know. But I'm thinking, why did my guides want me to, make this video, right? Here's the kicker. They need to communicate better to all of you light workers, star seeds, energy workers, card readers, Reiki masters, mediums. I don't care. If you do anything spiritual and you guys help people along your own journey or along their journey, you help people, you help yourselves, whatever, they need to communicate to us more clearly and rapidly. As you all know, the whole world's gone bananas, right? And that's not going to change or stop. Right? I'm telling you, it's sad, and it sucks, but that's not going to change or stop. And it doesn't matter how noisy it is out here. If we have found quiet and stillness and groundedness and peace and love here, then we control our situation and environment. And when we can connect to our guides and angels, we can get information, insight, support, and all kinds of things telepathically. But we can't do that until we have found a quiet space within us. Because out here is loud. You're not going to find it out here. You got to stop looking outside of yourselves. You're not going to find it out here. You got to go inward. And that inward is also noisy because we've not taught Karen to sit down and shut up, right? So you have to find that stillness and peace in here. Get that feeling, that frequency down pat. Then you can really start to engage with your angels and your guides and all that kind of stuff. And it really is a self, I don't want to say self-taught, but it is really a self-evolutionary move. It's not something that I can do for you. It's not something that somebody else can do for you. Now, you can have somebody do energy work with you that helps get rid of old crap and helps you heal and helps you be grounded. And that can all create a perfect environment that allows you to have a better meditation, but you still have to practice. You still have to make the effort and set the intentions to do the things that we talked about. You can't just, it's not like you're gonna find a book, read about telepathy, and then boom, you can do it, right? You're gonna have to practice at it. Now, sometimes your guides will be sneaky, and you'll have an out-of-body experience, or you'll read a book and you'll have a crazy meditation, and where you go somewhere. And a lot of times they do that as this huge carrot dangling in front of you. And they're like, do you see now? Do you see what you're capable of? Do you see what you could do? And then you feel like almost a failure because you cannot get back to that state of meditation, or you cannot figure out how to astral travel again, or how to have an out-of-body experience again. And you're like, what the heck? It was like a one-time thing. It's not. They're doing that to dangle the carrot in front of you to say, do you see what you're capable of? Now, get to practicing, and so that you can get back to doing that again effortlessly and anytime you want. So I hope that this made sense for you guys. I have a bunch of really cool videos coming up here, and I'm going to kind of shoot them out pretty quickly, I think. And so I've got some cool things like brewing, and I'm excited to share with you guys. But telepathy was the first thing. They told me that they really wanted me to do this one first before I do some of the others. And I think I understand why. It's going to help you guys, I think, digest some of the other information I have coming down the pipeline. So as always, take or leave whatever, resonated with you. I hope that this hit you in your heart chakra. I hope you guys had light bulb aha moments. And no matter what, you guys did not click on this particular video by happenstance or by accident. I am so thrilled that you are here to hear all this information, and I hope that you do wonderful and amazing things with it. So with that, I send you all love and light, my friends.